Welcome to Hard Script.
She flinched when I leaned in to kiss her. That's how it started. Not with shouting. Not with betrayal. Just a quiet moment of rejection so sharp it didn't need an explanation. We'd been married 5 years. And that night, standing in our own kitchen, I felt like a stranger trying to kiss someone else's wife. I didn't press. Didn't ask why. Didn't even show it hurt. I just stepped back, poured my coffee, and said I'd be working late. But in my chest, something shifted. Not pain. Not confusion. Calculation. That was the last time I tried to kiss her. The last time I gave her the chance to make me feel small in my own home. Because when your wife pulls away like you're something she has to endure, you don't need a loud breakup. You need a quiet decision. Her name is Natalie. She wasn't always like this. There was a time her eyes lit up when I walked through the door. A time when her fingers naturally found mine under the table. A time when a simple touch meant connection, not obligation. But over the last year, those moments died quietly. Excuses replaced intimacy. Routine replaced romance. And worst of all, resentment replaced respect. I noticed the patterns. The flinches. The late-night phone scrolls. The locked bathroom with laughter coming through the door. She didn't cheat, at least not in a way you could prove. But sometimes betrayal isn't physical. It's emotional withdrawal done on purpose. I didn't confront her. Because confrontation only works when both people want resolution. Natalie didn't want resolution. She wanted distance, but with benefits. A shared mortgage. A stable income. A husband who didn't ask questions. And for a while, I gave her exactly that. Until the night she turned her face away. That wasn't rejection. That was a signal. And I received it loud and clear. So I started planning. Not out of spite. Out of strategy. The man I became doesn't explode. He vanishes. Quietly. Cleanly. Without warning. Over the next few days, I stopped initiating. Stopped checking in. Stopped trying to hold together a bond she had already let rot. I became silent. Present, but emotionally unavailable. Polite, but distant. And in that silence, I started watching her unravel. Because when a man goes cold, the room gets uncomfortable. But I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was preparing the exit she never thought I'd take. And the next morning, after another night of separate sheets and quiet avoidance, I made the first move toward disappearing from her life. The next morning, I brewed 2 cups of coffee, placed hers on the counter, said nothing. She walked in minutes later, phone in hand, tapping out some message with that faint smile she never gave me anymore. She glanced at the coffee like it was just part of the furniture. No, thank you. No eye contact. Just silence. And I realized right there, she was already living in a world where I didn't exist emotionally. So I started matching that energy. I stopped trying to fix things. Stopped checking if she made it home safe after late nights with coworkers. Stopped asking what was wrong when she sat in silence, arms crossed, back turned. The first move wasn't dramatic. It was administrative. I opened a new checking account under my name only. Moved half of our shared savings. Quietly. Legally. No warnings. No explanations. Just numbers shifting behind a screen while she posted filtered selfies in gym locker rooms. Next came the documents. I reviewed our mortgage terms. Checked title ownership on the house. It was in my name, something she insisted on years ago, back when she trusted me with everything. She still trusted me. But now, that trust was my weapon. The man I became doesn't announce his plans. He builds them in silence. At dinner, I didn't initiate conversation. She didn't either. She was too busy scrolling, laughing, probably at something her friend Jason sent. Jason, her new gym buddy, the one she said was just really good at helping her with her form. I never asked. I didn't need to. Because the moment a wife compares a stranger's attention to her husband's loyalty, the game is already lost. And I don't play rigged games. I started staying later at work, and when I did come home, I kept to myself. Natalie didn't notice the distance. She welcomed it. Thought it was freedom. But here's the thing. Freedom's a funny drug. It feels powerful until you wake up and realize you're the one left behind. And that day was coming. She just didn't see the clock ticking. I made copies of my personal documents. Stored digital backups in cloud folders she couldn't access. I canceled the joint Amazon account. Created new logins. New passwords. New boundaries. And still, she didn't ask a single question. Because when someone believes they've already won, they stop checking the scoreboard. But I wasn't losing. I was clearing the board. The house she took for granted? Already listed for private sale. The moving truck? Scheduled for a Monday morning when she'd be at yoga. I was writing my own ending. One she wouldn't see coming until the walls were empty. And when the moment hit, it wouldn't be loud. It would be final. It was a Thursday. Cloudy. Quiet. Just like the day we got married. Only now, the silence meant something different. She left early that morning, yoga mat in hand, her car peeling out like she had somewhere better to be. She didn't say goodbye, didn't ask when I'd be home, and I didn't expect her to. She'd gotten used to my silence. But she had no idea what it really meant. I waited 30 minutes after she left. Then, I unlocked the storage unit I'd been filling for weeks. My essentials were already packed: clothes, laptop, documents, photos that still meant something to me. The rest? Let her keep it. Let her walk through the shell of a home she thought she still controlled. By 11 a.m., the moving truck pulled up. Two men, efficient, silent, just like me now. I didn't give them instructions twice. I didn't micromanage. I just stood there, watching pieces of my old life vanish into cardboard and tape. Her designer vases? Stayed. The coffee mug she gave me on our second anniversary? Tossed. The man I became doesn't cling to memories. He burns the past to build the future. By noon, the house was hollow. I left the walls clean, left the floors swept, left no mess, only absence. But I did leave one thing behind. A note, folded, resting on the granite countertop she used to love showing off. It didn't say much, just one sentence. Thank you for making it easy to leave. That was it. No drama, no explanations. Because when a man truly detaches, he doesn't need closure. He becomes it. I dropped the keys in the mailbox. Final. Clean. And walked away from the house we bought, the life she faked, the version of myself I had let shrink for years. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not her. Not her friends. Not even our mutual acquaintances who secretly suspected something had been wrong for a while. Because this wasn't just a departure. It was a vanishing act. And when she came home later that evening, yoga mat in hand, ready to scroll through her phone and ignore my existence once again, she would walk into nothing. No husband. No furniture. No comfort. Just a quiet echo of the life she mistook for permanent. She'd probably call me. Maybe panic. Maybe cry. But I wouldn't answer. Because the version of me who tolerated rejection and begged for affection, that man was gone. The man I became doesn't return calls. He doesn't leave breadcrumbs. He leaves absence. She called me 5 times that night, then 10, then switched to texts. Long ones. Some frantic, some demanding, some pretending nothing had happened. I read none of them. Because the moment I walked out of that house, I disconnected from the version of myself who needed her to understand. She didn't deserve an explanation. Just like I didn't deserve years of cold shoulders, turned backs, and the look in her eyes that said, "You're invisible." Now she was the one staring into empty rooms. I imagined her reaction. The click of the front door. The silence. The way she'd call out my name, probably more from habit than care. And then, the stillness that would answer her. The open drawers. The missing clothes. The note. I pictured her standing there with that paper in her hand, trying to understand how I slipped away without noise. Without notice. Because she thought silence was weakness. She forgot it can also be a weapon. That night, I stayed at a short-term rental I'd booked weeks in advance. No one knew where it was. No shared accounts. No digital trail. I watched the sun set through a different window, ate takeout in peace, and felt lighter than I had in years. It didn't feel like escape. It felt like resurrection. The next morning, I checked my email. She'd written there, too. Same tone. Confusion masked as concern. Where are you? Are you okay? Can we talk? Funny how the ones who taught you silence suddenly beg to break it when you learn to use it better than they did. I didn't respond. Instead, I closed every joint account, froze the credit card she used the most, changed passwords, transferred the last of my money from the joint savings to an account only I could access. This wasn't revenge. It was protection. The man I became doesn't destroy. He reclaims. By noon, I'd spoken with my realtor. The house was listed. Fast track. Cash offers only. No delays. It wasn't just about leaving her. It was about making sure there was no door left for her to follow me through. She didn't get to keep the comfort of the house built on my patience. She didn't get to hold on to the lifestyle I paid for while she gave nothing back but distance and contempt. That night, I blocked her number, deleted the old photos, turned off location history, and for the first time in a long time, slept like a man who no longer existed in her world. 3 days passed. I didn't check my phone once. I'd muted the world she still lived in. The silence wasn't just for peace, it was for precision. I needed those days to tie off everything. Finalize the property listing, clean up digital traces, re-establish who I was without her. But the outside noise found me eventually. Through third parties. My buddy Nick texted, "Hey man, your wife called. Said you disappeared? Everything okay?" I didn't answer. I just read it once and let it hang there. Because that's what happens when you strip a manipulator of access. They scramble. Not for you, but for control. I'd already anticipated this stage. The outreach. The fake concern. The performance. She'd always been good at the optics. Perfect on social media, icy behind closed doors. I bet she even cried on cue when she called my friends. Nick messaged again a few hours later. "She's freaking out. Said you left a note and disappeared. You sure you don't want me to tell her you're okay?" No. She didn't deserve the comfort of certainty. She deserved the same confusion she'd wrapped around me for the last 3 years. When her affection went dark, when intimacy turned transactional, when love was something I begged for and never received. I wasn't being cruel. I was matching energy. I didn't just disappear from her house. I disappeared from her story. I called my boss and took a leave. Said I was handling personal business. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Take care of yourself." No one else needed explanations. Only she did. Because she'd been exposed. By the 4th day, my brother texted. Said she showed up at mom's house. That she looked lost. That word caught me. Lost. Because she'd never looked that way before. She was always in control, or at least pretending to be. But when you pull away the one who carried the emotional weight of the relationship, they lose their script. She'd never had to chase me before. Now she was knocking on closed doors with no keys in hand. I let the silence stretch longer. I wanted it to echo. Meanwhile, I was building something new. Rented a small place near the lake. Started reconnecting with people I'd pulled away from during the years I spent chasing her validation. I even rejoined a local gym. Got a haircut. Bought fresh clothes. Stuff I'd stopped doing when I stopped feeling seen. By the end of the week, I wasn't just gone from her life. I was becoming someone she wouldn't recognize if she passed me on the street. That was the point. She found a way in. Through my brother. I knew it was coming. She'd never been one to accept boundaries she didn't set herself. And eventually, someone in my circle would break under the weight of her tears and questions. "Just talk to her once," my brother said. "Let her hear from you directly." But there was nothing to say. Not anymore. Still, I let the call through. Not because she deserved it, but because I needed her to hear who she lost. I answered on the 3rd ring. Not to punish her. Not to explain. But to show her how calm a man can be when he's already gone. "Where are you?" she asked, her voice shaking like she was the one abandoned. "What is this? What are you doing?" I didn't respond right away. Silence. It stretched. Cold. Heavy. I wanted her to feel what I felt for 3 years. The weight of trying to speak into a void and hearing nothing back. Finally, I said one sentence. "You knew I was disappearing. You just didn't believe I would." She started crying. I could hear it. Or maybe pretending. Either way, it didn't move me. She said she was confused. That I was overreacting. That we needed to talk. I almost laughed. Talk. After years of her checking out emotionally, treating our home like a hotel and me like a stranger on her couch, she used to come home late, smiling at her phone, brushing off my questions like I was the one out of line. Now she was the one searching for answers. "You blindsided me," she said. "This is cruel." I paused again, then replied. "So was being invisible in my own marriage." That was it. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't beg for her to understand. I let her sit in the wreckage of her own silence. She asked to meet in person. I said no. She said we could fix it. I said, "There's nothing left to fix." And before she could try to twist it into another guilt trap, I ended the call. Calm. Sharp. Final. The man I became doesn't feed the fire. He lets it burn out on its own. I blocked her number again after that. Not out of anger. Out of necessity. She didn't get to play the victim in a story where she was the architect of the collapse. I walked down to the lake that night, let the wind hit my face, and realized something. She hadn't reached me. She'd reached a memory of me. The man she could manipulate, bend, gaslight into submission. That man was buried beneath every quiet night she took for granted. The next attempt wasn't hers directly. It came through her best friend, Lauren, the one who used to side-eye me at parties, who laughed a little too loud when my wife told jokes at my expense, who once told her, right in front of me, "You could do better." I knew Lauren was involved, and that's why she was the one sent to check in. She showed up at the gym I'd just started going back to. How she knew I was there, I didn't ask. I didn't have to. My wife had always known how to plant seeds through other people. Lauren walked up while I was re-racking weights. She smiled like this was some random encounter, like I didn't see the performance from a mile away. "She's worried about you," she said. "You can't just vanish. That's not healthy." I nodded, calm, cold. "She thought you'd cool off. But this? You're making it worse." I let her talk. Because that's what they hate most, when you don't interrupt the lie they rehearsed. Lauren tried everything. Guilt, logic, even flattery. She said I was always the stable one, the one who kept things together, the one who should have fought harder. That's when I turned. I looked her in the eye and said, "Tell her the fight ended when I realized I was the only one swinging." No anger, just fact. She blinked. The act slipped for a moment. Maybe she saw it, the new version of me, the one her friend could no longer manipulate. She said one more thing, though. "She misses you. She's falling apart." I didn't answer, just walked past her, left the gym, air sharp on my skin, heart steady. Because I knew what this was. Not love, not regret, not a woman broken by loss. It was a woman shocked by consequences. She was used to pressing reset, to saying just enough to make me doubt myself again. But I wasn't doubting anymore. I was rebuilding. Every move she made now came from the wrong playbook. Because the man she thought she was playing no longer existed. That night, I deleted old photos from my phone. Not out of spite, but clarity. Pictures of vacations where I smiled alone. Holidays where she posed beside me like a stranger. Birthdays she barely acknowledged. All gone. I didn't even flinch. When someone uses your loyalty as leverage, the most powerful response isn't revenge. It's removal. Clean. Precise. Permanent. And when Lauren texted later, a long message full of, "Maybe you're overthinking this, and she still loves you," I didn't reply. I archived the thread, then blocked her. Same way I blocked the past. I heard the knock before I saw the car. It was a soft knock, the kind people use when they're hoping no one answers. But I did. Not to let her in, just to look her in the eye one last time, so she could see what she lost without me saying a single word. She stood there in a hoodie and jeans. No makeup. Eyes swollen like she hadn't slept in days. She wasn't the polished version of herself she usually curated for social media. She was stripped down now. Raw. But not for me, for herself. For the realization that her safety net had cut itself loose. "Can we talk?" she asked. I didn't move. Didn't open the door further. She shifted her weight, probably expecting me to crack first. I didn't. "I just want to explain," she said. "Everything's been. I didn't mean for things to get so far." That line. I didn't mean for things to get so far. As if it had all spiraled by accident. As if nights out, secretive texts, emotional absence, and passive disrespect had somehow happened to her. I let the silence stretch. Then I said, "It's already explained." That stopped her. She didn't expect that. She thought I'd ask questions. Demand answers. Look for a way back. But that door, the one she used to walk through like it belonged to her, was gone. Not locked. Not closed. Gone. She stepped closer. "You were the best thing in my life, you know that." That would have crushed me a few months ago. Now, it just sounded like a bad script delivered too late. She tried to cry again. Hands trembling, voice cracking. But something about it felt rehearsed, like she was mourning a man she thought would always be there. "You're really done?" she whispered. I didn't nod, didn't speak. I stepped back, slowly, and closed the door without a word. No slam. No drama. Just finality. And that was the last time I saw her. She didn't knock again. Didn't text. Didn't call. Because for the first time, she believed me. Not because of what I said, but because of what I didn't say. And that's the core of shadow. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need revenge to win. You don't need permission to disappear. All you need is clarity and the discipline to walk away without looking back. I stood behind that door for a moment after it shut, breathed in, exhaled, and smiled. Not because I hurt her, but because I didn't let her hurt me again. 3 weeks later, I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Mark. We weren't close anymore. Not since college. But the way he said my name on the phone, quiet, careful, I knew something was coming. I didn't know if I should tell you, he began. But I figured you'd want the truth, even if it's late. That's how you know it's bad. When people tiptoe around words, unsure if you're ready for what they know. He said her name, then the other name. One I recognized immediately. The coworker she always said was just a friend. The one I saw her texting at midnight, then brushing it off like I was paranoid. The one who had a girlfriend anyway. Turns out, the girlfriend was real, and she'd found the texts. Not just texts. Photos. Reservations. Plane tickets. And a note in her journal that read, "If I can get through the divorce without losing too much, we'll be free." She'd written that 6 months before I even knew we had a problem. Mark had seen it because his sister worked with the other guy. Word got around. Fast. The story unraveled on its own. I didn't ask questions. I didn't have to. Everything I suspected had roots. Deeper than I thought. Colder than I was ready to admit. And yet, I wasn't even angry. Because by the time her lies reached me, I'd already buried the version of myself that could be wounded by them. I wasn't her husband anymore. I wasn't her cover story. I was a man building something new. Far from the version of me she bet on staying broken. What shocked everyone else didn't shake me. I didn't call her. Didn't confront him. Didn't post anything. I let the truth do what it always does. Show up late, but arrive uninvited. That night, I went for a run. The air was sharp. My lungs burned. But every step felt like a page tearing out of a book I no longer had to read. The next morning, I finalized my new lease. New neighborhood. New lock codes. The place didn't hold memories. Just opportunity. I left no forwarding address. Because the past doesn't need one. Her world was falling apart. Friends ghosting her. Co-workers whispering. The other man backing away the moment things got messy. But I wasn't there to witness it. That was the real punishment. Not silence. Absence. She couldn't scream at me. Couldn't manipulate. Couldn't even reach me. I wasn't hiding. I just didn't live in her orbit anymore. Let me know when you're ready for part 10, the final chapter, where I don't get even. I get free. And she realizes. She wasn't left for someone else. She was left for no one. I never blocked her. That's the thing people don't get. I didn't block her because I wasn't angry. I didn't need the closure, the apology, or the final dramatic text. I left the door open, not for her, but for the silence to echo. And echo it did. 2 months after I vanished from her life, she finally cracked. It started small. A missed call at 1:12 a.m. No voicemail. Then a long message. I've been thinking. A lot. I made mistakes. We both did. But I believe we still have something real. I didn't reply. A week later, a handwritten letter showed up at my new address. I still don't know how she found it. Maybe a mutual friend. Maybe she hired someone. It was 6 pages long. Scripted to look honest. Rambling about nostalgia. About how she missed how I used to cook for her on Sundays. How I knew when her anxiety was acting up before even she did. She said she was ready to talk. She wasn't. She was drowning. That much was clear. Her job? Gone. Turns out that affair with the co-worker had consequences. HR had seen the complaints. Her image had cracked, not because of me, but because her pattern finally caught up. The other man, he ghosted the moment she lost her shine. Her parents stopped asking about me, started asking what she had done, and her friends weren't friends anymore. She wanted a lifeline, a hand to reach into the chaos and pretend none of it ever happened. But I didn't save people who set fire to my house. I read the letter once, then folded it shut. I didn't rip it. I didn't burn it. I just put it in a drawer I'd never open again. There's something colder than revenge. Something sharper than rage. Indifference. The man she betrayed. He died the night I packed my bags in silence. The man I became doesn't look back. I filled my time with things that had nothing to do with her. Learned how to surf. Got promoted. Moved again, this time by the ocean. Every time the wind hit my face, I remembered what peace felt like. She called again last month. No message. Just her name glowing on my phone screen for a few seconds. And then it faded. Like everything else she'd ever promised. I didn't reject the call. Didn't silence it. I just watched it ring. Quiet. Detached. She wanted to explain. Wanted to cry. To rewind. To dig up a love she buried with her own hands. But I wasn't there to listen. The final line of this story? Simple. Sometimes you don't need to say goodbye. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing and live better. Far, far better. Drop it in the comments. Hit subscribe. This is where we talk about what doesn't get forgiven.